things are going to move very quickly now, and Bitcoin is about to rise to 118,000, then to 150,000 US dollars, even though we're currently experiencing a small market correction. That's according to on-chain analyst Willy Woo, who says that as soon as the all-time high is reached, we'll immediately break through to 118,000 US dollars. The whole thing could happen within a week. Here we have the next analyst, Fred Krueger, who says that as soon as we break through 110,000, and that has also happened, there will be no more friction, meaning no more resistance. It's a smooth transition to 150,000 US dollars. Ground control to Major Tom. We're taking off now. Watch out, we could shoot up very, very quickly now. Let's take a look at that. Of course, we also have to say that there can always be small corrections, like the correction we're experiencing right now. And on top of that, we have major statements from crypto czar David Sachs, who actually explains how he orange-pilled Jamie Dimon, or rather JP Morgan, one of the most important banks in the world, to now roll out their Bitcoin offering. And we have hedge fund legend Jeff Ross, who is talking about his $445,000 target by Q4 2025. Yes, you heard that right. This year, we're still going to reach $445,000. And guys, this isn't some crazy person. This is an experienced and respected hedge fund manager who also says that Bitcoin will become the world's reserve currency. And right now, the United Arab Emirates are starting to massively accumulate Bitcoin. They already have between 200 and 300,000 Bitcoin. Absolutely crazy. Go ahead and hit the like button right now so we can keep making even more bullish content. If you want Bitcoin to break out, you have to hit the like button now. Take a second and smash the subscribe button so we can make even better content here and this content gets out to everyone, because these videos are still being suppressed and are still getting way too little attention. A lot of people are currently put off by this recent small correction. But if we ask the experts here, or, well, experts is always a bit subjective, but if we ask the market analysts, they are extremely bullish right now. That means what you always have to keep in mind is the long-term trend, not these short-term little €1 or €2,000 or dollar corrections. And that's why we're diving right in now. I'll try to sum it all up for you, what Willy Woo and other analysts are seeing right now, and why they're so extremely bullish. So, let's take a look at why things could shoot up very rapidly from here. Here's Willy Woo, who has always provided very accurate analyses. He also said here, at the end of April, and he posted this back then, that capital flows are coming back now. And he already said that Bitcoin is about to break through to new all-time highs. And like I said, we have several such statements now. For example, Fred Krueger also says here, yes, things are going up for now, so you should buckle up for the ride, and then, when things calm down again, you can, so to speak, unbuckle your seatbelt. But right now, you definitely have to keep your seatbelt fastened, just like on a plane during takeoff, or like with a rocket launch, you just have to buckle up and take all safety precautions, because things could move really, really fast, just like a rocket launch. And here, David Bailey also says, I can feel the mass panic building up. The FOMO is very real. We will reach 1 million Bitcoin faster than anyone thinks. So you can see here, there's a certain correlation between all the statements from the various analysts we're seeing right now. And the correlation here, or the common denominator here, is that yes, Bitcoin will reach new all-time highs, Bitcoin will climb to new record levels, but all of this will happen very, very quickly because we are now entering the price discovery phase and there is very, very little resistance on the way up. Of course, there's always a bit of wishful thinking involved, you have to admit that, but there's also some truth to it. I mean, just think about it. Earlier I saw that back during the COVID phase, there were those $1,200 stimulus packages, the so-called helicopter money. If you had put all of that into Bitcoin, those $1,200 would have turned into $19,760 by now, a gain of 1,547%. And people still tried to say that Bitcoin isn't a good savings vehicle. Plan B is running a poll here. So, what do you think, 2025, 2026? What all-time high do you realistically see? Here, 31,000 people from the Bitcoin community, and probably the crypto community too, have voted. Most people expect the all-time high to be between 150 and 250,000, sometime between 2025 and 2026. Very few think it will be over 500,000. A few believe it will be below 145, below 150,000. And many are also in the camp that says, okay, 250,000 to 500,000 is very, very realistic. So, I warned you that all-time highs were coming. A lot of people didn't want to believe it, but we've reached those all-time highs. Now, the next warning, it could be that we rise to much, much higher prices. Whether it really happens as quickly as the analysts are saying now, I don't know if we'll actually see 118,000 here in just a week. But we've seen it time and again. When Bitcoin gains momentum, there's just no stopping it. Then Bitcoin just pushes through. Bam, bam, bam. Bitcoin wipes everything out. And at that point, you really shouldn't bet against Bitcoin. There are still a few people. You always see a few clips like that on the internet. For example, there was this one really well-known trader in the US who sells his trading courses, and he was preaching that Bitcoin would drop to 20,000. Of course, that message has aged terribly. The kind where he always says, yeah, Bitcoin is doing really badly now, totally irrelevant in 2022 and at the lowest point of the bear market. Posts like that definitely haven't aged well. But now let's take a look at what the hedge funds have to say, because they're even more bullish. So that's wild. So, these were basically recognized Twitter analysts, or let's just say, ex-analysts. And now, we're going to take a look at hedge fund analysts. And hey, the professional analysts are even more bullish than the amateur analysts. But before that, let's take a quick look at David Sachs, the crypto czar, who's talking about how JP Morgan has done a complete 180 and is suddenly offering Bitcoin, even though Jamie Dimon hates Bitcoin. I actually made a video about this. Feel free to check it out. Just go back 2 or 3 days. About how Jamie Dimon used to hate Bitcoin, but now he has to open up to it because he has no other choice. And here, the person who apparently orange-pilled him, from the looks of it, is David Sachs, the crypto czar in the US. And you can really see what a powerful force this is behind the scenes in the US. All these powerful people are starting to orange-pill the other influential folks who aren't on board with Bitcoin yet. Just check this out. Here's my outlook. No joke, if I pan over here, you can see the Bitcoin bulls on the rise. They're heading straight for Valhalla. You can see it clearly. These are very, very bullish signs we're seeing here. It doesn't get much more bullish than this. The Bitcoin bulls, the Bitcoin cows, are climbing upwards. And here's another awesome view for you. And now, let's keep going. Also, leave a like for the Bitcoin bulls. But now, let's check out David Sachs.
If you had Jamie Dimon's ear, what would you say to him about his fear factor of cryptocurrency?
Well, I've talked to him about this before, and what I've explained to him is that cryptocurrency is a new type of digital asset, and it's a fundamental technology breakthrough because we've never had something be digital before that could also be scarce. So when you talk about digital, you're talking about files or photos, things like that, where you can make an infinite number of copies. In the case of currency, that wouldn't work, right? You can't have copies of currency being made. And yet the fundamental advance here is in cryptography. You can have an asset be digital and also scarce. So it is a fundamental breakthrough. And I've tried to convince Jamie of this.
He says here that he talked to Jamie Dimon. And how crazy is that? He told him that Bitcoin is digital scarcity. You can't. Like a JPEG file or something like that isn't scarce. And he just said that Bitcoin manages to create digital scarcity through the proof of work algorithm. And that's something truly unique. You don't find that anywhere else. Like I said, JPGs and so on can just be copied. And it's just absolutely massive that by now we have these kinds of pioneer figures, like Howard Lutnick, for example, or Eric Trump, a crypto czar from the USA, or even people like Larry Fink and so on. And of course, all of them have an interest in seeing the Bitcoin price go up. That means they all have an interest in orange-pilling people, and of course, they know all the big players. So, every bear will probably end up getting orange-pilled by one of these bulls sooner or later, simply because they have much, much better arguments. And apparently, he managed to do it. Jamie Dimon said, "I'm now securing your right to buy Bitcoin here, even though I don't like it." Because he realizes, okay, he has to give in to the pressure, he has the weaker arguments, he's on the wrong side of history. So, all in on Bitcoin. We're now offering Bitcoin products. And now things are about to get really intense. Now the hedge fund managers are coming in, like Dr. Jeff Ross. A really, really impressive guy. A really, really bold Bitcoin prediction. Really, really strong words. And a really, really compelling argument. Check it out.
It's inevitable that Bitcoin will eventually become the world's reserve currency and the world's reserve asset. We're on that trajectory. People hate the term inevitable because they think that implies no human effort. I think there's going to be tons of human effort from Bitcoiners who understand Bitcoin. And because of that effort, Bitcoin will become inevitably the world's reserve asset and the world's reserve currency in time, in decades.
So he starts off pretty relaxed. Bitcoin will become the world reserve currency and the world reserve asset. That means these are two different things. World reserve currency, or yes, global lead currency, and world reserve asset. You could maybe call it that too. That means the global lead currency would be something like the dollar is right now. That's the standard unit of account. The currency in which everything is denominated, the one you use to pay for things, and so on. And the world reserve asset is simply what is held the most in central bank reserves. At the moment, that's also the dollar, but in theory, those could be two different things. And most likely, Bitcoin will first become the world reserve asset. In my opinion, it will initially function as central bank money, meaning that, for example, central banks will hoard it, or countries will create sovereign wealth funds, and so on. They'll simply hoard Bitcoin, and then, as a final step, it could also become the global lead currency, at least in my view. But Jeff Ross says that will take tons of effort. He says that, in a way, it's inevitable that it will happen, but it won't just work out easily, and it will require a lot of effort. But because there are so many people who are getting involved, who have subscribed to this YouTube channel, who are hitting the like button a lot, and so on. That's what's pushing this forward. That means the more you like the videos, the more you share the videos, the faster it can all happen. Start a company, a Bitcoin company, hold Bitcoin yourself, hodl Bitcoin, trade Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, do business with Bitcoin, buy things with Bitcoin, educate people about Bitcoin. All of this is, of course, helpful here, and he says it's inevitable because Bitcoin is an idea whose time has come. And now let's check out the intents, the bold statements that are coming up next.
I completely agree with that. And I think that hands are going to be forced as well. Like I'm fairly confident from people I've spoken to that the UAE hold a significant amount of Bitcoin, whether that's 200, 300, 400,000 coins, whatever. That's going to play into it. And I think that may end up forcing the US's hand in some way, maybe quite quickly.
The host here from What Bitcoin Did also says that the US will be forced very, very quickly to buy massive amounts of Bitcoin because the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, already has 300, 400,000 Bitcoin, something like that. And I've said time and again that this could be the case. There are always speculations about it, but it hasn't been officially confirmed. And now comes the closing statement. Why Jeff Ross's absolute formula is going to kick in here. This is absolutely mind-blowing.
But in terms of like this Bitcoin cycle, how important do you think the US involvement is?
I think it's just basically I think it's important for this cycle, as you say. I think it's going to be the main driver that will push us to the next level. So I'm still holding on to my thesis or my guess of Bitcoin at a price target of about 475,000 by the fourth quarter of 2025. And that's because of now mild nation state involvement. So the US will probably get involved to some degree. That should start a bit of a foot race for Bitcoin, but I don't think it will be as impressive as a lot of people think. You know, we had MicroStrategy last cycle. Now we have a handful of companies doing the Bitcoin treasury strategy. It's great to see, but it's still just a teeny tiny drop in the bucket so far. But that's enough, I think, enough interest to help push the price higher in this next cycle. So once we see liquidity really start to take off, I think that's what will propel Bitcoin to, you know, a 500K valuation, maybe a million, who knows. My range is anywhere from 200,000 to a million at some point. And then I think people will get over leveraged again, like people always do, because they get caught up in the hype and they do stupid things. And then we have another crash after that. And then the next cycle, I think, will be more of nation state involvement kind of early on. And we'll start seeing nation states stacking at a more significant level.
So the crazy thing is, that actually lines up pretty closely with my analysis, what I always say. This cycle is going to be pretty strong. There will definitely be some massive price increases, also driven by liquidity. He says here that the Bitcoin treasury companies will, of course, push things even higher. He says that even up to 1 million is possible. 445 is his base case, but he says in the worst case it could also be just 200,000. I mean, whether it actually hits 400,000, that's probably more of a bullish target, and then 1 million is probably hopelessly exaggerated for this cycle. But you never know. If Bitcoin gains momentum, anything can happen. What was interesting was that he said he doesn't expect the intense nation-state FOMO to kick in this cycle. Only in the next cycle, and I see it the same way. Basically, we have a new group in every cycle. First it was retail investors, now in this cycle it's the companies, and in the next cycle it could be the nation-states. So this is really, really interesting. A truly impressive analysis. Feel free to let me know in the comments below how you see things. If you want to bring even more freedom into your life, more prosperity, lower your tax burden, or maybe set up a plan B, then I'll also put a link down below to the next live webinar, the Immigration, Freedom, and Sovereignty webinar. I don't really know how to put it. In any case, we'll take another in-depth look at these topics and see what you can do right now to take your life to the next level. Be sure to sign up below if you haven't already for the next live webinar. But only if you're truly ready to take your life to the next level. And if you still want to buy Bitcoin, I'll put a link below to 21 Bitcoin, where you can buy Bitcoin easily, safely, and simply. With the code Bitcoin Hotel, you can still get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin. Guys, I'll see you. Peace out.